Hi, I'm Tim. I am the Tinkering Turtle, and today I'm going to do my unboxing and assembly of the Himiway Escape. Full disclosure, the Himiway Escape was donated to my YouTube channel by Himiway. I did not purchase this myself. They did that so that I can continue on with my series of videos showing how to assemble and upgrade and maintenance and do all those things. So thank you, Himiway. I really appreciate it. And let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do is unbox the bike. Because the box itself got ripped in transit, normally I would just open up the top and lift the bike out, but today I think I'm going to open up this end and slide the box out, or slide the bike out. I want to keep the box in case I have any warranty issues and I need to send the bike back. I'm going to want to have a box that I can put the bike back in, tape it all up, and send it off back to Himiway. So I try not to trash these boxes too much. I actually store them in my basement, which my wife loves. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start unboxing now. Now, one thing I do want to say is I'm going to take all the packing material and I'm going to put it back in the box as I get the bike done. So I have all this packing material that I can repack the bike with. So I don't throw any of this away. Pull out the box of parts. I do want to show something that I really like. I like that they put padding all the way around the back tire, back down in here, and down on this side as well. That isolates the bike from sliding back and forth. That's a really good way to package the product so that it doesn't move in transit. And that will help decrease any kind of damage to the bike. So kudos, that's a really good packaging plan from Himiway. So now I've got the end of the box open. I'm just going to pick it up and roll the bike out. Yep. Lean the tire up against the bike so it stands there. Now it's a good idea to look through your box. I just found a bolt in the bottom of the box here, so I'll set that over here. Again, I'm going to take all my padding and packaging, put it back in the box. Now I'm going to keep that packaging and box as long as I can, as long as my wife allows me, in the basement. Like I said, just in case in the next, I can't remember if it's a year or two for Himiway's warranty, in case they have a reason to ask me to send the bike back, I have everything I need to do that. All right, my next step is I'm going to take all the padding and packaging off of the bike, see what I've got. Again, putting that all in the box. I'm going to pull the battery and probably get that charging now, so it's charged up as we get closer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I actually want to point out that what I do is I lay out my tools over here on the bench so I can easily grab what I need at the time. That makes it a lot easier and quicker for me to go through the whole process. I'm going to grab my wire snip so I can get the zip ties off. So that's one of the pads that held it from sliding side to side in the box. I try not to force the packaging off when I'm taking this thing apart. I just try to make it so I can just slide things off. I don't want to damage anything while I'm, taking this stuff off. So now that I've got the handlebars all pulled apart, I just want to take a look and make sure I'm not seeing anything damaged. Everything looks good. At this point, the keys are on the wire bundle here. I've got the keys, so I'm going to clean this up and loose assemble the handlebars. Set the front fender over here. I figured out where the extra bolt came from. It came out of this front stay. Unfortunately, I've only got 3 bolts here. I'm missing the 4th, so I'm going to have to look around, see if I can find that in the box, or more than likely that probably fell off, and when the box broke, it found its way out, and I'll have to go get a replacement. So I'm going to open up the parts box. Inside you'll find a hat, nice Himiway bike hat. You'll find your multi-tool, which is, I'm not going to use this to do the assembly, but these are really nice when you're out on the road and you get into an issue. You have something with you. You have a couple of plastic, looks like axle covers. You have the front axle, a small spacer I think for the brake side and a big spacer for the other side. And I will show you how to put that in. It comes with a 15 millimeter wrench. That is the same size, I believe, as the pedals, which are labeled right and left, and they need to go on the correct side of the bike. The Escape owner's manual. This will be the headlight, I'm pretty sure. Yep, nice headlight. Brackets already pre-installed. And this last box will be the charger for the battery and the manual. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take the battery out of the bike and I want to start it charging over on the bench, so that when I get done assembling, if I want to take a ride, I can. So you put your key in the lock, wiggle it in, turn it, turn this lever, the battery slides right out. Take your key back out. Now there's been some debate about the proper procedure for plugging in your battery. Do you plug it into the wall first? Do you plug it in to the bike first? And I don't know what the right answer is. You got to keep in mind, I am not an electric bike mechanic. I'm just a guy that likes to tinker and move things around. So what I typically do, and I don't charge my batteries on my bike ever, I typically will always charge my bike or my batteries off the bike. That's just personal preference. Plug this into the charger. Set it here. I plug it into the outlet. The light comes on and is green, and then you take the plug and you plug it into your battery, and you'll notice that right away it turns red. That means it's charging. Now I do note on this battery, I don't see, oh here it is. You can check the battery level here, which looks like it's pretty full, so that's good. That shouldn't take very long to charge up. Now we're just going to let that sit. Like I said, it's charging. We're going to let that sit until it's charged. Okay, so I have looked for the other bolt that goes in here. It is nowhere to be found, so after I finish the video I will run over to the hardware store and pick up another one. And at the hardware store they have usually little plates with metric threads in it that you can screw this into and make sure you're getting the right one. So definitely take the bolt with you, and you can go down to an Ace or something like that and typically find what you need pretty quickly for just 20-30 cents. Okay, so to loose fit the handlebars, I'm going to take this piece off, which removes the 4 screws, which I only have 3. I'll take that off. I'll put the handlebars up here, then I'll put those in and snug them down just so they're just barely holding, so they're nice and snug. You don't have to crank them right way down right yet. I usually don't tighten up the stem or this tensioner handlebar plate until I have the front wheel on and I can actually stand up and line it up and everything. So to do this, I bought a nice little tool from Park Tool that is a 4, 5, and 6. This is a 4. So I just take my tool, my little Allen wrench tool. I'm going to put these down. And I've got the plate off. I'm going to lift the handlebars up and put it in place. One thing I did is I made sure all the wires that were coming out of the tube were coming in front of this, not wrapped around the back of the stem, because I didn't want to have to fight the wires or cables. Now, it's going to be a little difficult. Basically, you just hold it on. Doesn't matter if that rotates down right now. Make sure you don't cross thread anything here. You don't want to tighten up this so it's all the way cranked down, because if you look at the bottom, there's a gap here too. You don't want the gap to go to 0 on one side and be big on the other. You want it to be about even when you get this tightened up. Now I've snugged it up a little bit. I need to loosen it. Rotate it up. Now this is where I'm going to take and I'm going to make sure that the gap on this side and the gap on this side are even, so the handlebars are centered on the bike. I'm going to do that by just kind of eyeballing it. Rotating it back and forth a little bit. A little too far. Okay, now that I got it in place, I'm going to evenly tighten these 3 or the 4 bolts, but it'll be 3 for me, until it's nice and snug and doesn't move. I will fine-tune adjust this when I get to the point where I can sit on the bike and actually feel them. I'll pull it forward and back and get everything squared away the way I want. And it feels like the stem's already tightened up, but I'll probably snug those down too when I get the front tire on. Now while I have easy access, I'm going to look in the end of the headlight connector, make sure that the 2 wires are sticking straight up, they're not bent over. So that when I go to assemble the headlight, there's a little arrow right here on each side of the connector, and I can line those up and push it straight together. These connectors are tight, they're hard to push on, but they are, watertight connector so you don't get water into the electronics. And it takes a little extra effort, but I'll try to give you a little rundown on how I do that when we get to that point. So one thing I want to do before I try to put the front tire in is I want to take this brake caliper off. You don't have to do this, but it's a good idea if you're here alone trying to put the tire on. You don't want to have to be fighting the caliper as well as getting the axle in place. So I'm just going to take it off and let it loose hang while I get the tire on the front. And that will be a 5mm Allen wrench. I don't know if you don't got a really good angle for you to see there, but I'm taking out this top bolt that holds the bracket, and then the bottom one will have to come out, and then this will just slide off. So don't have a very good angle for you, sorry for that. Notice it has a little bit of blue Loctite on it, which is nice. I'm going to slide this over. Okay, and you'll see that the bracket came off with it, which is fine. I'll let that sit aside. Now I'm going to visually inspect the rotor disc to make sure that it's basically nice and straight and not bent. And then I'm going to get the front axle ready. Is you take off the side with the longer spacer. The side with the shorter spacer will be on the brake side. The longer spacer will be on the right side of the bike. So I'm going to take this side off, the washer and the spacer, and then I will put it through the bike this way. Now the caliper's on this side, so the rotor is going to be on this side. This front bar is going to be going forward, not aft. That's important. This little plastic piece that's in here, that'll just pop out, and I'll just kick that out with my foot, and then we can get this front tire on, hopefully. So here's a little plastic piece that protects the fork. Now I'm just going to grab here, slide the axle in, wiggle it a little bit. And I'm going to put this notch on the threads, not on the spacer, on this side. And actually I did that a little wrong, so it's going to take a little bit to fix that. So I should have put the spacer on before I got it to this point. So I'm going to have to do that now while lifting up the bike. So I just slide the spacer on the axle. Okay, so again, now that I got that semi-close, I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to slide it on the threaded part. Make sure I'm on the threaded part on both sides. Push the axle all the way in. And now I can put the kickstand down. So again, it's important that the notch in this go on the threaded part and not on the spacer itself. And on both sides, then you'll have the spacer. Now you'll see on this washer, you've got a smooth side, and then you got a side with these little notches in it. They want the notches out, which I don't really see the point, but I mean, they're not that deep. And then you'll put the nut on. Okay, at this point, we've got it loose fit on. I'm going to need both hands, so I'm probably not going to be able to get you a great camera angle. I'm going to get a wrench for both sides on those nuts, and then I'm going to be able to tighten that down evenly on both sides. So I'm going to set this up a little bit off to the side, and hopefully we'll get a good picture of it. So again, long spacer on the right side of the bike, and short spacer on the left side with the rotor, and hopefully when I put the caliper on, that's going to remain true. So the 15 millimeter is the right size for these. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Yep, I'm going to need one for the other side too. Now, I could use my adjustable wrench for this, but I also have a little 15 millimeter tool that I picked up to carry on my bike. Now when you do these, is this one turns this way, the other one turns the other way. So just to tighten it up. And I'm looking in the gap on both sides of the tire at the top, making sure that it's aligned properly. And that feels good. I'm going to lift the bike, make sure it spins nicely, and the rim looks true. That looks good. Now at this point, the two plastic caps that came with it, I'm pretty sure fit right onto these nuts. So one thing I'll note about this extra bracket here, it says, can you see that? It says 20 millimeter post. One of these bolts is longer than the other. So this must be 20 millimeters and this one's shorter. Another thing to note is it's got a red spacer here that needs to come out before you can put it on the caliper. Now don't pull the brakes when it's like this, because you can pop these cylinders out and that'll ruin the brakes. So when you pull this out, put it on the rotor and bolt it back on. So I'm going to slide it, pads up there, line it up with the, I'll just finger start these. Once I got them snug, I'll back them out about a turn. So the caliper's loose on the rotor. What I'll do is I'll squeeze the front brake up top, as you can see here, and then I'll tighten up those two bolts. And the reason I tighten them is it centers that caliper onto the rotor. Now let go. I pick the front of the bike up again. I got a little bit of rubbing, so I'm going to have to do some adjustment on that, but it's good for now. Now the next thing to do is the chain typically comes off. You just pull that down. Just pull the derailleur down in the back, and you lay that up there, and the chain is on. So I'm going to do the pedals next. I will see a small L and a small R. Also, if you look at the end of the bolt, you'll see like WR and WL on the end of the things. The left hand always has little hash marks here. The right hand is always smooth. So this will be, double check the left hand. I'll slide that over to that side of the bike. And one thing I always do is when you put these in, they'll always rotate towards the front of the bike. It's a good idea if you have Loctite to put them on the threads at this point. Use the blue Loctite because the red is more permanent. Use the 15 millimeter wrench that Himiway provided. Give it a good snug fit. We'll go do the other side. Again, you want to rotate towards the front of the bike. Put that in nice and tight. And there you go. I'll tell you what, it's nice having this little 15mm wrench. That's kind of nice. So now we have the pedals on, we have the front tire on, the back tire looks pretty good. Again, it may need some adjustment on the brakes. The only two things left are the headlight and the front fender, so let's get to that. Okay, so the front fender is going to have the stays in the back. Those will connect to these clamp adjusters here, and then it'll have the mounting bracket on the front that'll attach here with the headlight. So get the headlight wire up out of the way. I'm going to slide this in underneath. I'm going to pull that apart and drop it, of course. So I have that nut. It's nice that they have it right in the correct spot. So to put this on, I'm going to take the bolt that came out of this position. I'm going to slide it into the bracket on the headlight here. I'm going to put that through the bracket on the fender. I'm going to lift that up and slide it through the hole on the fork right here. Then I'm going to take the nut and start it on the back. So now I've got my adjustable wrench that I will size to fit the nut on the back. And I'm going to want to rotate. I'm going to have to loosen up the bolt on the headlight that goes this way so I can bend that up out of the way. And it is a M4. So now I can rotate the headlight up out of the way and I can access this bolt here. Adjustable wrench on the back, and I can tighten up that bolt. Once I have it snug, I want to square up the brackets here so that the headlight is horizontal. I'm not going to pull it back down yet, but I want it so it's not twisted over. Make it nice and tight. That's nice and tight. So now I will take my headlight and I will rotate it back down so it's pointing down the road. I'll use my M4. And I'll tighten that back up on both sides. So now you just have to plug in the connector. As I said before, hopefully you can see this, there's a little notch right next to my thumb, and there's a corresponding notch right next to my forefinger over here, and then the two wires. You'll also see, and again, I don't know if the video is going to come out clear enough for you to see it, but there's a little arrow on each of the connectors. Those arrows need to line up and they need to be pushed straight together. So I'm going to line up this arrow with this arrow, which lines up the notch in here and the slot in here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that notch up. I'm going to rotate it down so it's square and then push it together. And again, it's a tight fit. So that's something that you have to be careful of. And then you can peel the plastic off. And your headlight is aimed forward. You might want to get to a point where you zip tie this up here, but I'm going to wait until the bike's put together to do that. So for the stays, I'm going to take the nut off the end, set that down. I'm going to slide this bolt back out and put the stay in between, and then slide the bolt back in and then put the nut back on. I'm just going to loose fit it for now. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now this one, the nut's on the outside. I'm going to probably pull the bolt all the way out to make this easier. And I'm going to put the bolt in from the outside. And that's so I can get the Allen wrench easier onto this bolt, and I'll just have an open-ended wrench over here holding the nut. Put the nut on. So this is a 4mm Allen wrench and an 8mm open end, which I'll put the box end on here. I'll put the 4mm here, and then I will tighten that up. Repeat the same process over here. I put the box end on that side. Now I slid it down a little bit so the fender would fit more symmetrically. And then I just finished tightening this up. And the fender's on. So I got the headlight on, I've got the fender on. I've got to tighten up the screen a little bit. I may have to adjust, you know, how these line up. But that looks pretty good. So I do have a few more things to do, and I'll show that in the next video. But I will do a quick adjustment on the brakes to get them so they're not rubbing. I will adjust the derailleur if it's needed. I will also, well, I guess I don't need to worry about the seat, but I'll adjust the front shocks. Before I ride or anything, I'll do that. But right now I've got to finish up this video and then go get another bolt for the handlebars that I lost in the shipping. And by then, hopefully the battery will be charged up and we can take a little ride once I get those last adjustments. But look forward to that on the next video. If you liked the video, great. Thank you. Come back and watch the next one. And I will catch you next time. So I just check here. It says it's an M5 by 0.8 coarse thread. Make sure it goes in. This is the gauge at my local hardware shop. And I look here, 4 to 6. M5. So now I just need to look down in here and match this up. A stainless, pretty good match. I just need to find a washer. So I just got back from the store with the original bolt that came with the bike and then the replacement that I got. I'm going to put them up in the stem to tighten up the handlebars now. I'm going to put the original one back in first. And these turned out to be M5 by 16-ish. I'll tighten these down. Now the handlebars are on good and tight. Thanks for watching.